Some stories don't begin with fireworks or betrayal. They begin with quiet sacrifice. With the soft click of a laptop at midnight, the careful budgeting of dreams, the half smile you practice in the mirror so nobody knows how tired you are. My name is Olivia Bennett. I was the wife who paid every bill, soothed every storm, believed in happy endings because I worked for them. For years, I thought that was enough, that working harder would buy me safety, if not love, then at least respect. But sometimes the real danger isn't the battles you see coming. It's the secrets building up behind your back, turning the people you trust most into strangers with matching last names. And the day I learned the truth about Eric Hayes. That's the day my old life ended and the fight for everything I built truly began. Late October 7th, 12 p.m. Our apartment in downtown Chicago was all cool concrete and soft yellow lamplight, just the way I liked it. I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by spreadsheets and grant proposals, crunching numbers with one hand and holding a cold mug of tea in the other. Eric was on the couch behind me, half watching a game, half scrolling his phone, feet propped up on a coffee table I'd refinished myself. Every now and then he'd ask, "How's the grant looking, Liv?" or "Need me to order dinner?" on the surface helpful, but underneath always just out of reach, like he wanted a trophy for showing up. I didn't mind at first. I was grateful. Grateful I could focus on my career. Grateful he handled the laundry and made breakfast on Sundays. Grateful he didn't yell the way my own father once had. Grateful until the day gratitude started to feel like a leash. That night, I got a text from my best friend, Natalie. "Did you see Eric's Insta? Who's the kid in the photo?" I blinked, scrolled. A photo of Eric at a playground, smiling, kneeling next to a little girl with a dimple so deep it looked like it belonged in our family tree. The caption read, "Best surprise in months." No tag, no explanation. Something cold flickered in my gut. I looked over at Eric. He was already locking his phone face too blank. I asked, "Who's that little girl?" He smiled too quickly. "Just a coworker's kid. We had a team picnic, remember?" My stomach twisted. I nodded, forced a laugh. But in that moment, every spreadsheet, every plan, every long night I'd poured into this marriage suddenly felt like a bad investment. And I couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest numbers in our life had never made it onto my balance sheet. The morning after that playground photo, Eric woke up humming. He made omelets, poured my coffee, kissed my forehead like he hadn't just lied to my face. I watched him move around the kitchen so at ease, so sure I wouldn't question him. I told myself not to be paranoid, not to start a fight. Maybe he really was at a company picnic. Maybe that smile in the photo was just him being friendly. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe... The doubts spun dull and endless. Natalie texted again. "You sure he's not up to something? That kid looks a lot like him, Liv?" I typed, "Stop. Don't make me crazy." But even my thumbs shook. That afternoon, Eric left early for a work meeting. I stayed behind, laptop open but work untouched. The apartment was so quiet, every sound felt sharp. The tick of the old wall clock, the distant rumble of the train, my own pulse in my ears. I opened our bank app, scrolling through recent transactions. Nothing out of place, just the usual groceries, utilities, a couple of ride shares. But then I noticed a line I hadn't seen before: Parkside Cafe, 2438. I paused. Parkside Cafe was in a neighborhood across town. The kind of place you go for brunch, not business. Don't do this. Don't turn into the suspicious wife. He'll just say you're insecure. But the feeling wouldn't leave. I pulled up his calendar on our shared iPad. No meeting, no scheduled lunch, blank. That evening, he came home whistling, swinging a takeout bag. "I got your favorite Thai curry extra mild," he said. I smiled, took the food, and watched him set the table like everything was normal. We ate in silence, forks tapping TV, murmuring in the background. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "You always take such good care of me." He grinned, relief flashing in his eyes. That's what husbands are for, but the words hung heavy in the room. Because I knew, and deep down he knew I knew. It was only a matter of time. That night when he fell asleep, I sat by the window with my cold tea and my colder suspicion telling myself the worst isn't what you find. It's what you already know and can't prove yet. 3 days passed. Eric grew more affectionate, almost theatrical. He offered to do the dishes, folded my laundry without being asked, left notes in my planner, like he was auditioning for Husband of the Year. And the more he performed, the more I knew he was hiding something. On Saturday, while he was out for errands, I drove across town to Parkside Cafe. The waitress behind the counter looked up with a smile. "Back so soon?" she asked. I froze. "Sorry," she blinked. "Oh, I just thought you were the woman from earlier this week. She was sitting right over there. Little girl with her. Cutest dimples. Guy with glasses and a navy coat." My blood turned to ice. Did he say what his name was? She shrugged. "Eric, I think. They were here maybe 2-3 times this month. She always orders the blueberry pancakes for the kid." I left cash on the counter and walked out before my knees gave way. I sat in my car and stared at the dashboard, heart pounding. He hadn't just been lying about work. He had a pattern, a place, a routine with someone else, someone who had a little girl, a girl with dimples. I remembered that photo again. The way she clung to his hand, the way he smiled at her like she wasn't a stranger. She's not just some co-worker's kid. She's his. That night, I didn't confront him. I asked him about his day. I laughed at his stupid joke. I kissed his cheek goodnight and climbed into bed beside him. But while he slept, I made a list of questions he couldn't charm his way out of, a list of passwords to reset accounts, to download documents to copy, a list of everything I'd given him and everything I was about to take back. Because this wasn't just about a child, this was about the years he stole, the dreams he borrowed and never returned. The version of me he depended on to never ask too much, and I'd been quiet long enough. Sunday morning, gray skies, wine tapping at the windows. I made breakfast like always, eggs, toast, his favorite coffee. Eric walked into the kitchen, hair damp from a shower, wearing that blue pullover I bought him on our 2nd anniversary. He smiled. "You didn't have to cook." I smiled back. "It's Sunday. Tradition, right?" He sat down. Unfolded the newspaper like this was 1952. I poured his coffee and sat across from him, heart pounding behind my ribs. "Don't accuse, just ask. He'll bury himself." So I did. I stirred my tea slowly. "Do you remember a girl named Haley Ross?" His fingers froze over the sports section. He looked up, blinked once. "That name sounds familiar. Was she a student of mine?" I nodded. "She was. About 6 years ago, right?" He shrugged. "Yeah, I think she was in one of my seminars." Why I set my mug down gently? Because I saw her yesterday. At Parkside, with a little girl. His face changed, not shocked, not confused, just paused, calculating. "I didn't know she was back in town," he said. "Small world. She called the girl Ellie." I leaned in, voice steady. "Ellie has your eyes." His knuckles whitened around the coffee cup. Still, he said nothing. That's when I knew. I didn't need a confession. I didn't need a paternity test. Because liars always stall when the truth is standing right in front of them. I stood up. How long? He sighed. Long. Heavy. False. It was just one mistake. I was helping her out. She was struggling and I cut him off. You don't help someone by making a baby with them. His jaw tightened. You don't understand the pressure I was under. You were so focused on your career, on the grants, the conferences, I laughed. Cold. Sharp. You mean the job that kept us fed. The job that let you sit around writing half a novel while I paid every bill, he stood, voice rising. I didn't plan for this to happen. No, I said. But you sure as hell maintained it. We stared at each other across the table, his face twisted with panic, mine carved from the silence of every night I'd swallowed my instincts just to keep the peace. I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry. I simply walked to the bedroom, pulled out a duffel bag, and started packing. He followed. Olivia. Wait, we can fix this. We can go to therapy. I'll cut off contact. I turned to him. I don't want a fixer-upper. I want a partner. And you're not even in the blueprint. He didn't follow me after that. Not to the door. Not to the elevator. Not into the next version of my life. Monday morning, I showed up to work with swollen eyes and perfect eyeliner, the kind of war paint you put on when you refuse to let anyone pity you. Natalie met me in the lobby, eyes scanning my face. You ready? I nodded, more than he ever expected. At her apartment that night, I laid everything out on the table, receipts, texts, Eric's calendar, the Instagram screenshots, and the name of the cafe. She brought wine. I brought rage. I'm not divorcing him in the dark, I said. I want him to feel it. Publicly. Legally. Financially. Natalie smirked. You want a lawyer who plays clean or one who plays to win? That's when she gave me Jack Lee's number. Jack didn't blink when I told him my husband had a secret child. He took notes, asked questions, leaned forward. Do you have joint accounts? Yes. Prenup? Thankfully, yes. Drafted when I still had student debt and he had a trust fund. I was the charity case back then. Jack smiled like a wolf. Then this is going to be fun. Over the next week, I gathered everything. Pay stubs that proved I funded 90% of our life. Emails where Eric called me his business partner while spending my money on brunches with another woman. Even a PDF of his outline for a memoir, How to Love Without Losing Yourself, written while he lied to everyone who loved him. I found the lease for a storage unit rented in his name. Inside, old baby clothes, a crib, birthday decorations, a photo of Eric, Haley, and Ellie family style. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just took photos of everything, then locked the door behind me like I was sealing a vault. By Friday, Jack had filed the petition. Eric was served at his gym mid-set. He texted me 7 times that day. I didn't open a single message. Instead, I sat with Natalie on her fire escape, wine in hand, city lights blinking beneath us. You're not done yet, she said gently. I looked out at the skyline and answered no, but I'm finally facing forward. Because the best revenge wasn't about making him hurt. It was making sure he could never touch my peace again. It was Sunday, just after noon. I was sorting documents at the kitchen table, legal folders, stacked like bricks in a fortress I was building around myself. The knock came soft, hesitant. When I opened the door, I didn't expect to see her. Haley Ross, smaller than I remembered from campus, hair tied back. A little girl standing beside her holding a plush rabbit by its ear. Ellie. those dimples again like punctuation marks on the truth I'd already accepted. "Hi," Haley said. I know I shouldn't be here." I didn't move. "You're right. You shouldn't." But then Ellie looked up at me, and not with guilt, just with the innocent curiosity of a child who didn't know she was a storm in someone else's life. "I didn't come to fight," Haley said. "I came to tell you something about Eric." I let her in. Ellie sat quietly on the floor with coloring books while Haley and I stood in my tiny kitchen, the air between us thick with unfinished sentences. She didn't pretend to be the victim, didn't try to justify the affair. "I was naive," she said, "and stupid, and desperate, but I didn't know he was still with you when we started." I folded my arms. "He told you we were separated." Her eyes welled. "He told me you were cheating on him, that you controlled him, that he'd been sleeping on the couch for months." I swallowed hard. And after Ellie was born, she continued, "He stopped coming around, except when he wanted photos, or to borrow money." "Or borrow money?" I asked sharply. Haley looked embarrassed. "He said you'd frozen his account, that he was broke, that he just needed help until he could move out officially." I nearly laughed, bitter, cold. "I paid for his dental checkups last year." That's when she pulled something from her purse, a voice recorder. "I started recording him a few months ago," she said. "I didn't trust him anymore either. And what he said last time, I think you deserve to hear it." She played it. Eric's voice crystal clear. "Olivia's just a means to an end. She's smart, yeah, but she's soft. She'll never leave. She's built her whole life around this marriage, and she's too proud to admit she bet wrong. Once Ellie's in school, I'll push for shared custody. Then Haley will get benefits too. That's how you win, slow and quiet." I stood still as glass, not because I was shocked, but because I'd been right to walk away. And now I had proof that walking hadn't been weakness. It had been the greatest act of power I'd ever made. Haley looked at me, voice trembling. "I don't want him anymore. I want him gone." I stared at her for a long moment, then said calmly, "Good. Let's ruin him properly." By Monday, Jack had the audio file transcribed, notarized, and packaged as a supplemental exhibit. "That recording," he said, "is a gift from the legal gods. You now have intent manipulation and financial misconduct. You don't just get to leave him, Olivia. You get to erase him." I smiled without softness. Haley and I met again this time with strategy, not emotion. We laid out a timeline of Eric's lies when he told her we were separated, when he used my money to take her and Ellie on trips, when he gave her hope while feeding off of both of us. I showed her the grant awards with Eric's name as co-author. She gasped. "He said you didn't want your name on anything." I nodded. "He said you were just a friend from college." Guess we were both the lie he told the other. The media team Megan referred me to helped shape the message, not a tabloid exposé, but a case study in power dynamics, image control, and intellectual theft. Within days, an article appeared on a professional legal blog, When Partners Pray. How one woman's career was hijacked by her husband's hidden life. It didn't name Eric, but everyone in our network knew exactly who it was. Clients pulled out. Speaking gigs disappeared. Even his agent, yes, the one pushing that ridiculous self-help memoir, cut ties. He emailed me, "You've gone too far. This could ruin me." I replied, "Exactly." By the end of the month, the court granted the motion to freeze assets Eric had tried to reroute. Our prenup held strong every dollar I brought in. I kept. Jack pushed for damages, emotional distress, misappropriation of funds. public defamation through fabricated cheating stories. Eric tried to counter, but the audio made sure the judge never looked at him the same again. Outside the courthouse after the hearing, Haley met me with Ellie. We didn't hug, we didn't smile, we just nodded at each other. Two women who had been used. Two women who had unlearned silence. Two women who had learned that sometimes the most healing thing you can say isn't "I forgive you." It's "I saw what you did, and now the world sees it too." Fall arrived like a quiet apology, the kind that doesn't ask for forgiveness, just offers a change in the air. Leaves burned gold outside my new office window. Yes, my office. Corner desk, nameplate, and a drawer that held the paperwork for two new nonprofits. One for women navigating coercive relationships, another for those rebuilding careers after financial abuse. Because I didn't just walk away from Eric, I walked toward every woman who'd been told she was too dramatic, too needy, too ambitious, too much. The first call came from a woman named Danielle, a single mom. Her husband had drained their savings under her name. Sound familiar? She cried for 6 minutes before saying a full sentence. I didn't interrupt. I let her cry. Then I told her, "You're not crazy, and you're not alone." That became the tagline for the foundation. Not crazy, not alone. Haley joined the team part-time, handling grant applications, helping design our branding. Ellie came to the office sometimes. She colored at the corner table while we worked. She started calling me Miss Liv. One afternoon she asked, "Are you my mom's boss?" I smiled. "No, sweetie, your mom's the boss of her own life now." Haley blinked fast but didn't look away. We didn't need to say it, Eric was gone. Not just legally, but erased from every plan, every dream, every version of the future we were building. Natalie hosted our first speaking event. I stood in front of a packed room, mostly women, a few brave men, all with eyes like mine eyes that had seen too much and refused to close again. I told them the truth, not the polished version, not the lawyer-approved one. Just, I thought silence made me strong, but silence made me small. And the moment I told the truth, I got my voice back. They didn't clap right away. They just sat there breathing it in. Then someone whispered, "Damn right." And then the applause came loud, full reel. That night, I walked home alone. No ring on my finger, no man waiting at the door. And I felt something I hadn't in years, weightless. Not because the world was easy now, but because it was mine. It was a Tuesday when I got the call. Barbara Hayes, Eric's mother. I hadn't heard her voice in nearly a year. Not since the day I left suitcase in hand while she stood in my living room pretending not to know her son had built a life on lies. Her voice on the phone was thin, cracked. "Olivia, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need help." I almost hung up. But something in me, the part that had once tried so hard to be a good daughter-in-law, said, "Wait." She'd been evicted. Eric had stopped sending money. Her friends were gone, her health failing, her pride hanging on by a thread. She wasn't asking to stay with me. She was asking for help filling out Medicaid paperwork. I met her at a diner. She looked smaller, not just physically, in presence. Gone was the woman who used to correct my cooking, who once told me Eric needs someone softer. Now she stared at her chipped nails and murmured, "He doesn't return my calls." I handed her the paperwork. "You raised him. You know why." She flinched. "I thought I was protecting him," she said, "but maybe I just enabled him to become worse." For a moment I saw her not as the woman who judged me, but as another product of silence. a woman who had played by rules written by cowards, and now she was alone in the debris of her own protection. "I'll help you," I said, "but not because I forgive you. Not because I owe you anything." She nodded. I continued, "I'll help you because I don't want to carry your poison anymore." That was the end of it. No hugging, no second chances. Just paperwork signatures and the sound of a woman realizing she'd run out of people willing to excuse her. That night, I opened the notebook I hadn't touched since the court hearing. I wrote, "Some ghosts don't need to be fought. They need to be starved of attention, of guilt, of the version of me that used to beg for approval." And then I turned off the light. Winter came, but I didn't feel cold. My apartment was still small, but filled with warmth. Laughter echoing from meetings at my dining table. Flowers from Haley on my birthday. A candle burning on the windowsill that smelled like orange peel and new beginnings. At our final event of the year, I stood behind the mic holding a card I didn't need. The room was packed. Former clients, volunteers, social workers, women who had shown up in pieces and built themselves back brick by brick. I looked out and said, "There was a time I thought survival meant staying quiet. That if I worked hard enough, forgave enough, I could earn peace. But peace doesn't arrive like a gift. Peace is what you make when you tear down the lie and build something real in its place." They didn't cheer. They exhaled like someone had said the thing they'd been carrying in their throat for years. Afterward, Natalie wrapped her arms around me. "You did it, Liv." I smiled. We did. Across the room, Ellie waved from Haley's lap. She'd drawn a picture 3 stick figures under a bright sun. Me, Haley, herself, no Eric, and no one missed him. That night, I walked home with the wind tugging at my coat. I passed the cafe where I once sat shaking with suspicion, the park bench where I first wrote my list of things I refused to unlearn, the courthouse where I reclaimed my name. And when I opened the door to my apartment, I didn't feel the need to lock it behind me right away, because I was no longer afraid. I sat at my desk and opened the last page of my notebook. In bold, permanent ink, I wrote, "I am not a warning. I am a witness. And if you are reading this, know you don't need to be brave all at once. Just honest, and the rest will come." Then I closed the book not because the story was over, but because I'd finally stepped out of it and into my own life.